Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all our viewers from wherever you are watching us. We are back on Eurofarm Uganda, the 12th of April, 2026, with your one and only host, Samantha Elf, all the way from Finland. Today, we are honored to be joined by a distinguished scholar, a thought leader, and author whose work speaks directly to one of the most pressing, yet often overlooked challenges in our societies. Our guest is a professor and PhD holder, a man deeply committed to understanding the dynamics that shape businesses, leadership, and generational success. He has recently added author to his impressive profile with the launch of his very first book titled Breakaway to Galvanize. In this insightful work, he tackles a critical issue affecting many enterprises: why so many promising businesses struggle to grow beyond the shadow of their founders. He explores the leadership transitions, mindset shifts, and structural changes needed to move from dependency to sustainability, from control to empowerment. His perspective is not only academic, but deeply practical, offering lessons that resonate with entrepreneurs, families and businesses, and a new generation eager to build a lasting impact. Please join me in warmly welcoming our guest tonight as we dive into a conversation that connects education, leadership, and the future of enterprise. Before we start our show tonight, I'm going to request each and every one of you to humble yourselves and let's have a word of prayer. Mighty Father, I would like to thank you for this beautiful and wonderful day. Thank you, Lord, for your presence. Thank you, Father, for your protection and for the bread of life. We thank you, Father, for your love, your care, and above all, Father, that we are here today without any pain in our bodies. Father, as we deliberate upon our topic today, I pray, Lord, that we may be a blessing to someone and help us touch someone out there. Father, we've prayed all this through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Yes, we are still here on Eurofarm Uganda, and I have a special guest with us tonight. And before I do that, I need you to all know that this particular guest was with me a week ago, and he is back here to talk about a very powerful question, that is, that what does it really take for Ugandans to compete and succeed in a global stage today? In a time where technology is reshaping industries, remote work is breaking borders, and innovation is the new currency. The skills we prioritize can define not just individual futures, but the future of an entire nation. Are we equipping ourselves with the right tools? That is a question I want you to ponder upon as we go on with our discussion. And are our classrooms aligned with the demands of tomorrow? How can young people, professionals, and educators in Uganda position themselves not to just participate, but lead globally? Stay with us now as we unpack the skills that matter, the gaps we must address, and the opportunities awaiting to be seized. This is Education and Future Skills, where your future starts, and it starts now. So all of you viewers on Eurofarm, you're most welcome, and let's welcome my lovely guest in the show, who will tell us more about himself briefly. But before we do that, allow me to welcome you once again, Dr. Kasiria Fred. You're most welcome today. The floor is all yours, and tell us a little more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for having me. Yes, last week we were together and we had a very insightful conversation around my recent piece of work. Well, and here we are again. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or even good night to those that are out there watching us. I hope you who are having probably some few minutes before you take off to your bed, wherever you are, you'll find it sufficient to stay longer and we have this conversation. But regardless, if we miss you, you'll find it on YouTube anyway. So I'm Dr. Kasirye Fred, and yes, I am a university professor, School of Business at Caucasus University. And today I am happy to be invited by Euroforum to have this conversation around education and the future. Just to point at skills that tomorrow might demand, so that we have a collection of minds. We see what you're looking at. You find a place where my thoughts are, and then we find a point of where our citizenship can kind of find a future in the world of work. That's going to be our discussion today. I hope you find it enriching and rewarding to whatever you do, or if you are a young person trying to plan for tomorrow, I hope you find it one that will be informative and readies you to try out what tomorrow presents. Thank you, Elf.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Kasirye Fred. I am more than delighted to have you here. This has been a very much awaited show. Like I've always said, I have booked Mr. Kasirye for a very, very long time, and I now cannot believe that I actually have him here with us on Euroforum Uganda. So for all of you out there, remember to invite a friend, to invite another friend to come. Let's learn. Remember, knowledge is power, and we are here to share or actually gather the knowledge from someone that actually knows it all. Yes, some of you might come for me, but you don't have to. I do believe in Mr. Kasirye because, come on, he's a doctor. So yeah. Dr. Kasirye, as we start our show, could you kindly take us through what global competitiveness means for Ugandans today?
Thank you. Competitiveness is quite a broad aspect to look into, but we should appreciate before we get there to understand one or two things, that we're just part of what the entire world presents. We're just one part of the entire world. And we go normally through the same systems. Sometimes we are advantaged by nature, and sometimes we are simply disadvantaged by a couple of factors, which sometimes are self-inflicted or, naturally. By where we are located as a country, certainly we have some both advantages, like I've said, naturally, and then of course disadvantages, because geopolitics does not necessarily give us an advantage as a country. But in the present time, where Internet of Things has more or less enabled people in disadvantaged places to compete favorably with other people elsewhere, we find our place in this whole new world, and we can now try as much as possible to compete. We are moving in a way that we see that we do not have to be questioned about where we are, but rather what we can do from wherever we are. We need to be able to deliver value at the global standard without compromise, because everyone wants value anyway. So in this case, we are not only competing with the people in Kampala or Biji, where I come from, or Masaka, where my grannies are coming from. No, we are competing with everyone in India, in Europe, in the US, in China. Basically, what we are trying to do is, and we need to turn our resourcefulness and resilience into what we would consider structured, marketable capabilities. Because the consumer out there is not interested in who you are, but rather they're interested in what can you deliver at the end of the day. So the real question here is, can your skill really travel with you wherever you go? And I think that is going to be very, very key in the discussions that we have today.
Yes. Yes, Doctor, actually, as we talk about that, I'm going to pose my question for a later a later time, because I've always wondered to myself that how does it help, or how helpful is it for people back home in Uganda to actually go ahead and study? You know, people put in a lot of money, time, and also input, I should say. And then when they travel abroad, say to Europe or the US, we get here and some people are told that their documents do not actually matter, or they do not carry any weight compared to the European standards. So what are people back home supposed to do for them to actually get into that environment where they know that they'll be studying and their academic, papers can actually carry weight, or can actually be accepted in these so-called developed countries? Before you answer that, Doctor, I just kindly want to apologize to all our viewers out there that we are very sorry for having, started late. We're sorry for that delay. We were supposed to start at exactly 16 hours, as in Finnish or Ugandan time, but we started a few minutes to 5. So our apologies for that. We had issues on our technical side. So please bear with us, and do not stop supporting Eurofarm Uganda, because we are who we are because you make us that. So yes, Doctor, please continue. And then also just to inform all of you that we are not live on Facebook today. We are only streaming live on YouTube. So feel free, in case you miss out on today's show, you can always run back and watch the show on YouTube. Thank you very much. Doctor, the floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Your question alluded to the fact that, people might study from Uganda and then they have to travel to the West and then probably have to redo their education just to align themselves with the systems there. And that is exactly what is changing. Our competitiveness is asking of the same. But with the shifts, we see that now the field is getting more and more leveled. And because of this, you see international education systems realigning themselves towards the common good. So what Ugandan education or higher education institutions need to do, they need to identify with international bodies so that they have their courses accredited at that level. And therefore, a qualification in Uganda should be able to favorably make you compete elsewhere. So you do not, as an institution, it should be very aware of the fact that it's not training nationals for the growth of the country alone, but rather it's training nationals for the growth of the globe as it is. So it should make them globally competitive, not locally competitive. So this is one thing that many institutions are taking up, and definitely making their programs accredited by institutions on the global scene, because it takes quite a lot, a number of skills that need to be looked into, and that's why this kind of necessary input is required from our higher institutions of learning.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doc, for that enlightenment. And for those of you that are just joining us, we are on Eurofarm Uganda, and our topic today is education and future skills, where we are emphasizing on what Ugandans should do to globally succeed in today's world. Yeah, so please join in, feel free to comment, and feel free to be part of the ongoing discussion. Doc, moving on, let's talk about how is the world of work changing, and what does that mean for education in Uganda, for example?
Okay, building into what I just stated,
yes.
Because the world of work is changing, you actually alluded to this even in your introduction, where we see the virtual environment taking up the normal way work has been noticed or understood. The climax of this is more like what we saw during the COVID-19, where so many people had to go virtual, and then that model has stayed for so many others. But then also we are seeing more and more companies reduce the nature of engagement from permanent and fashionable to specific tasks or small short-term contracts. Now that's going to be what work will be like. We are actually moving from what we have already referred to as a job to tasks and projects. Basically, you can have a simple project for a month, and then that is what it is for the whole year. So what does this look like? This simply focuses on the fact that we are moving into what we primarily refer to as a gig economy. And this comes to training. You move from primarily carrying a degree, because that has been the most celebrated acquisition by anybody in school, to having demonstrable skills. You need to see that shift. That okay, I have this degree, good, but which skill do I carry with me? So we are also moving significantly from physical presence to what we call a digital contribution. What Uganda as a country should do, or any other country that is in its category, we need to see a move in the education sector from content delivery to rather something much more closer to capability building capabilities within individuals. Let people be more than carrying certificates and documents to skills and abilities that are demanded for. We need to emphasize learning as much as possible, because without learning, then we cannot be able to question practices. We basically need to integrate real world problem solving in everything that we do. You imagine a child in school acing all nature of exams, but unable to practice anything that is just basic in society. Imagine a child passing a hygiene exam, A grade, but failing to practice personal hygiene as an individual. Just imagine that. Will such an individual have learned something, or they would have probably memorized S to the exam, but are not able to practice exactly what they learned? So we're seeing this kind of move, and we will need to see it much more often. We need to see a shift from passing exams to basically learning. We need to have people into the practice of continuous learning.
Doc, speaking of that, it brings me back to a thought of, do you think you as a professor or as someone of high value education, do you think that our current education system actually helps in preparing learners for the future? And how can our schools or universities better adapt to the global trends? Because this is a problem that we face, people in Uganda, yes, study, but we feel like all we do is cram, and pass exams, but we don't actually study or read to gain any skills. So what is your take on this?
Okay, yeah, it's amazing that we're talking about Uganda as a particular context, but in many cases you see that this is a global challenge. I recall earlier in my career, about 20 years ago, I was talking to an American professor, a friend of mine, and he visited Uganda for a short university visit, and he was very worried about the advances in China with regards to learning. He was so bothered about how American children were not, and very enthusiastic at the university. And then, but China wasn't that as aggressive as it is now. But the American academia had noticed the potential that the Chinese were coming up with, and so he was worried about how the American students were not taking it very seriously in school, and the professors were bothering to let them know, guys, look here, we have a future, and as the biggest nation, we have an economy to protect, but you need to take little things a little much more serious. And what that meant is that many institutions of higher learning needed to change their models of doing business or how they teach. And we have seen that happen. We have seen that happen in the US for so many institutions. Equally so, I would mirror the same for Kampala, Uganda. What Uganda's education system does, it does well on foundational knowledge and instilling discipline and structure. You will see that people will not question the status quo on many things, including how the economics actually operationalizes. Uh, that's basically a function of school. People are not trained to question; they're trained to be compliant. So if you ask me if this is preparing learners for the future, I'll tell you not sufficiently, because the system is actually struggling a lot when it comes to application of knowledge, when it comes to adaptability, and when it comes to innovation. I mean, why would someone finalize their university education and they tell you that after 3 years of obtaining special information that relates to any discipline of learning, they cannot create a job?
Mhm.
That is kind of disturbing. Well, the ultimate thing here that we see is that, well, we are preparing learners, but what we are doing is preparing learners for a world that has already disappeared, a world that is exiting, not the world that we will see tomorrow. Tomorrow's world is about innovation, it's about adaptability, it's about application of knowledge, things
Yeah.
that we do not really emphasize, and yet we need to see highly emphasized. I think Uganda has taken up a step in trying to do competency-based education, which is in its very infancy stages. Um, and meets a couple of challenges. There is always a discussion of how are we going to prepare 21st century, experts by working with 19th century methods. That discussion is also conflicting. It's difficult for the teachers to deliver this information in a manner that supports a futuristic existence, and yet also the students are also not ready to partake of it. They want to work with the status quo. But tomorrow is absolutely different. For the fact of today, we live in what is called VUCA. I don't know if you've come across that term. It's a volatile environment. It's absolutely uncertain, very complex, and it's absolutely ambiguous. Now, that simply means that so many things have changed. And they're about to change even much more. But how ready are we for it? Imagine a student going in to study a program, and by the time they graduate, the relevance of that program has actually disappeared. What would they have to do if they did not carry a skill with them?
Yeah. Doc, you just mentioned something about Ugandans lacking the art of job creation, yeah? And then I wanted to say that back home in Uganda, we really see a lot of people actually trying to create businesses. And I would actually say that in my knowledge or in my opinion, Ugandans are very good at creating, jobs for themselves. And this is evident through the small scale businesses that almost every household has. Let it be starting up chapati business, chapati. Some of them sell charcoal, by the roadside. People make what is it called? Like French fries. Like everyone is trying to start small, but maybe the problem here might not be the job creation, but the problem here is the capital for them to actually start and stay in that business. What is your take on that? Is the problem really job creation, or is it actually the fact that Ugandans lack the sources of funding?
Okay, thanks, Samantha. It's a number of things, really. It's a number of things. When the world changes,
Yeah.
it does not change only for Ugandans. It changes for everybody. And if I recall, at the time I was doing my master's program, I recall one of my professors telling us that development is like a multi-lane road. You know, when you are like now in Europe, when you are in a multi-lane road and you see how cars are running left, right, and center on different lanes.
Yeah.
And the speed that you're taking basically dictates which lane you should take. The moment you move into a lane that does not comply with the speed you're taking, you will certainly have a very serious accident. So, if you ask me what we are doing right, yes, people are very innovative. And if you recall, even from the previous discussion we had, one of our listeners asked about the fall-off rate for startups, which I argued that was basically because of the lack of structure. Yes, people are boiling with ideas, fine, but then they do not need structure to really navigate these ideas to fruition. So what is lacking anyway? A number of things. As we train, we fail to move from theory to practice, from grades to competence, from individual performance to teamwork. You know, it starts to feel uncomfortable because what people have learned, they cannot actually practice.
Yeah.
People cannot work in teams. They would rather choose to work as individuals. Employers, the employer, on the other hand, wants problem solvers, people who learn fast and unlearn quickly. You know, learning is one thing, but unlearning is another thing, which is actually very, very important. Then, the one thing that we are missing, and yet it is absolutely impossible to have it in the modern time, is communication. I mean, you see people, but their ability to communicate is very, very, very minimal. And yet, at the end of it all, businesses thrive primarily on communication. So, what we see today, schools are producing good memorizers, exam performers, but industry is not asking for that. I have seen many people get jobs because of very good transcripts. But I've actually seen those same individuals failing at the jobs that they are tasked to do. I recall in part of my earlier career, about 7 to 8 years ago, I needed a data entry assistant, and so after I got the best candidate out of an interview, I needed to have them do a practical. So I pulled out a few Excel sheets from my drawer, and asked them to enter them into soft Excel sheet. This I thought was basic, and for me, I was going to assess the amount of time used to enter the data. I will tell you, the girl started crying, and I asked, "Why are you crying?" I thought I'd done wrong to the girl anyway. She started crying, and then she actually told me she could not use Excel, but she was the best. She was the best in the interview.
Okay.
So what was this all about? So sometimes it's not capital. No. It is the environment in which everything that is being done is actually being done. Yeah, the unstructured nature, the idea that someone went to school, chose to cram their way through school, pass the exams, but they are unable to perform. There's many knowledgeable people, but knowledge without action is absolutely not important. It's like having a torch in your room and it has no batteries. So it's just another piece of clutter in your room.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, Doc. Actually, got the point. Yes, loud and clear. And I'm very sure the people out there as well have understood where you're coming from. Doc, would I be right then to say or conclude that we do have gaps that exist between what is taught in Ugandan schools and what our employers actually look out for? Because you just gave an example of that student who was actually the very best in an exam, and then going out to cry because she couldn't, use Excel as an example. So do you feel that there are gaps that are there between what we actually learn in schools and what is actually on ground when we seek to go out and work?
An outright yes. Yes, there's major gaps. There's major gaps. I think, and this is not only for Uganda alone, it's quite a global problem. I think education is not communicating to industry. Industry is seeking much better. From history, education or education institutions have been the place where innovations and knowledge is actually brewed. Incidentally, in modern time, industry is now taking that space. So industry is where innovation is actually growing faster than in the education sector. There's a bit of that. So education is finding it difficult to compete with the demands of industry. And this is where we need a catch up. Because many more people are asking themselves, why should I really have this education? And yet it's not going to give me that the industry wants. So there is, yes, there is a gap. If you ask me, there is a gap. Because as the world changes, education has not matched the changes.
Yeah. That reminds me of, a statement that I usually use, that we need to change. We need to embrace change, because usually if we don't embrace change, then change will automatically change us, whether you like it or not. So that is exactly what you are trying to say. Doctor, kindly take us through what skills are most in demand globally right now. Let it be technical skills versus the soft skills. Are there any particular skills that you would actually recommend Ugandans out there to embark on if they want to succeed globally?
Yes, the modern stage demands for a couple of technical skills and human soft skills. We on the technical side of view, what I see as very, very important is digital literacy. The idea that you understand how technology basically works. Then number two is data analytics, because the world is basically, most of the decisions that we work with in modern time are basically as a result of understanding how the data pans out. So data analytics, or having knowledge or skills in data analytics, is quite something. And of course, thirdly, in the area of technical skills, it's important to have some basic coding, just basic, understanding AI, understanding how artificial intelligence works at the basic level for starters. Then when it comes to human skills, it's important to have communication. Just understanding how to communicate to people is a skill that is in high demand. And yet it is one skill that people do not really have. I can understand from where they come from, because not so many people are in the business of talking. Every time I have to have a conversation with my students, they find it comfortable. But when you ask them to have a school or classroom presentation, you find them fibbling. And then you wonder why. Because these are the people that they're with all the time. And they cannot comfortably have a conversation in front of them. So imagine what it will take for them if they have to meet workmates in the future and have a conversation with them. It might be difficult. Critical thinking. One skill that is missing, because many people are top, just surface layer thinkers. They don't think deep. And why is so? Because almost everything has been provided to them by technology, and so it is available to them, so they don't have to think deeper about it. And Yet that skill is going to be absolutely important in the world that we see ahead of us, or even already now. Then emotional intelligence, the ability to understand the people on the other side. For instance, we had this call, and then I had you communicate the fact that, since we began late, it is really important that you care for those that were listening in to us. All that is part of emotional intelligence. The fact that you care for others and understand that people had to invest time to wait for this show, and then we delayed a bit, so you need to ask, tell them, guys, we're really sorry that. I mean, emotional intelligence is absolutely important, be it whether you're producing a good or churning out a service, whichever it is. And of course, most importantly, also because we're working virtually in environments that are not very, very, structured horizontally or vertically, we need collaboration. So in total, I would say we would be pushing for high tech and high touch kind of skills to look at what the future basically presents.
Yes. You had it from the professor's mouth himself. Doc, thank you very much for those very, very insightful skills that you have mentioned. And among them all, I actually focused on one, which is critical thinking. I thought about the person that I was way back, let's say about 10 to 15 years ago, and the person that I am today. And to be honest with you, the critical thinking bit aligns with me as well. I've come to realize that as we grow older, we tend to let things get away with us in a way that we tend to want things to be done the easier way. I don't want to put in so much anymore. Like, I find reading boring. I find and then we have AI, like you said. You spoke about AI. Many of us lately use ChatGPT. You want something, instead of me going to read to get knowledge about something, I'll just ask Chat and say, ChatGPT, what is ABCD? EFG, and that is it. And I think because of that, we are also lagging backwards because we are not putting in enough effort into knowing or learning certain things or certain skills because we want to get it the easier way.
Yes, that is true. But let me also add a little much more about AI.
Yeah.
Tools, just like any tools anywhere, or tools that have been used before in history, are aimed at simplifying work. When we moved from manual transmission vehicles to automated vehicles, we were basically simplifying driving. AI is also here to simplify the way we think through tasks and execute them. Here is the big note: not to replace humans. The unfortunate bit is, if, for instance, I'll talk about the field in which I work. If you you set out an exam, and then say take-home exam, and then the student deploys AI primarily to answer their assignment, you will be impressed by the output. But my conversation with the students has always been that while I am impressed by your output, can you truly and honestly defend your output? Because that is the ultimate goal. Have you understood? Can you question all that you have put together? Can you basically learn, unlearn, and relearn? So the tool is fantastic, but its abuse is astronomical. And that is where we need to check. Just like any tool, do not forget the fact that the tool is to aid you, but not for you to circumvent processes.
Yes. Yeah, Doc, thanks for that clarification. That makes a lot of sense. And you're very right about that because there are certain AI tools that we have that have been in use for very, very many years. For example, navigation apps like Google Maps, we all on a day-to-day basis, we all use or we all find Google Maps handy, and it helps many of us when you go to new places that you're not well conversant with. And then we have things like Siri right now for the iPhone guys, people that love iPhone. Yeah, they have what they call Siri and the voice assistants. Instead of typing, you just say Siri, call my love, and boom, they will call. I don't have to dial the number myself. And then we have, certain recommendation systems like Netflix, YouTube, all those I think are part of AI. We have, for example, in the healthcare, we have robots that clean instead of having people to clean the floors manually. So yes, like you said, AI is good, but we should not misuse it. So to all our viewers out there, Doc made it very, very clear. AI is not bad, but just make sure you will always be able to defend and actually understand what you are talking about, other than just presenting what AI says. Moving forward, Doc, let's continue with our discussion today. To all our viewers on Euroforum, I am Samantha Elfia in Finland, and we are talking about education and skills. With me tonight is a very, very learned professor, Dr. Kasiria himself. So feel free to come join us, learn and unlearn, like he says, and also gather information and knowledge. Let's move on and talk about technology and innovation. How can Ugandans leverage technology to access global opportunities?
Well, there's many ways. I think it's quite important to appreciate the fact that technology is the new normal, and we need to see how best we can leverage it. The question should be, how then do we do that?
Okay.
For instance, away from what you know, can you work remotely? Because that is the new way of doing work. So leverage of it. Because I mean, if you cannot work remotely, more like whatever everyone does in the West, almost everyone in their 20s is doing some job, but they're doing it remotely. What does this simply mean? You're doing a job, you do not know who your boss is. All you know is that you have outputs. Do those outputs, make sure that they satisfy the client, and then you'll get your pay. You don't have to put a face to some figurehead called your boss or anyone. So we all as citizens need to learn from global platforms, and many of them are actually free. Some of them are available to us at absolutely low cost. I also think or feel that we need to build what we would refer to as digital portfolios. These that help us show our different skills. This way, Ugandans would be able to leverage technology to access the global opportunities. Because if you get online, then you are everywhere. Then you can be identified by those who never imagined that you have a skill that you can share with them. I think if you dive into any databases that are online, you see people from all walks of life, experts from all parts of the world. And it's up to you to pick who should do which job for you. Those are the spaces in which we should all probably find some space to engage.
Okay. Yes, we we got that. And to add on, Doc, is there something that the government should do when we talk about policy and community? What role can the government and private sector play in skills development? Because this is not something that an individual can take on, on their own. We usually need the support as well from the government. So what would you say about how the government could, help in skills development?
Governments have a very simple role to play, which they normally fail at, incidentally. Put in place the right policy frameworks, and also when you put in place the support growth of different sectors, and therefore that is employment, that is ideas moving up and down and supporting growth everywhere. But also, if you put in place the right infrastructure, I mean, why should connectivity be a problem? Why should that be a problem, Uganda? Why should data be expensive? It should be available to as many people as possible. Technology taxes on gadgets should be or ought to be absolutely slashed to make more and more people get. I mean, you see so many Ugandans, for instance, getting online and starting YouTube channels or becoming bloggers or TikTok, advertisers or promo agents. But those spaces are at an arm and legs worth, absolutely expensive for the young Turks. And they have no way out of it. So as government, what would you do? The best that they will probably do is to make sure that these are available to whoever needs to do them at minimal cost. The private, of course, will follow what government does. I mean, no one in the private sector will move into an environment where government does not offer the framework for businesses to thrive. If government does not create the playfield for private businesses to thrive, then forget about private sector. I wouldn't spend a minute advising on what private sector should do if government does not play its part. It sets the pace. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that interference. But let's move on. For those of you that missed us last weekend, the 4th of April, we were here with Dr. Kasirye, who happened to have double blessings that day. The first blessing was that he launched his book, Bring a Way to Galvanize, and the second was that it was his birthday. He turned a year older. Yeah. For those of you that are eager to buy his book and get to read it and acquire more knowledge, please feel free to get us on Euroforum Uganda. You could send a message and the books will be available to any one of you. Remember, it is always good to upgrade yourself, read and learn every day, because learning is a process that never stops. We learn each and every day. Doctor, forward looking, moving forward, what will our future skills look like in the next 5 to 10 years? When we talk about skills in relation to education.
Well, I would not say skills in relationship to education per se, but what would the nature of work or skills basically look like? Like I initially stated, the world is changing in absolutely unprecedented speeds. And so this is quite difficult to contend with, but there is indications of what it might look like. One, it will be a combination of multiple disciplines. It will not be unusual to find an individual that is both a social scientist and a medical person. And it will, for the history that we have, we've known that, for instance, if you study sciences, you end up as a person doing medicine or engineering or stuff like that. But then also, I will tell you that it will not be unusual in the future or in the near future to find an individual skilled in both social sciences and sciences on the other, basically humanities and sciences on the other, or business and information technology, or business and engineering. So basically, it's going to be a combination of multiple disciplines, and of course, adaptability with an individual able to reskill quickly. Because if you do not or are not able to reskill quickly, then what you know today might be wiped out by technology tomorrow, and that affects your ability to survive in the generation that you thrive in. Then, of course, it's important to appreciate the fact that the future is talking about creativity. It's talking about, importantly, by the way, ethics, and it's also talking about leadership. People need stewards, people need direction, and therefore there's going to be a bit of a human-centeredness. So if you are to ask me for any three, I would say it will be hybrid, it will be adaptive, and it will be certainly human-centered in nature. So what do we see? We will see a lot of AI and human collaboration skills. We will see a lot of systems thinking, and naturally, we will be seeing a lot of cultural intelligence, especially if you have to work outside Uganda. Cultural intelligence allows you to understand how other cultures interpret different aspects, probably sometimes different from how you interpret them. So having cultural intelligence supports you to thrive in places where you would never thrive, for instance. And that is something that is not a given for so many people. Not many people have cultural tolerance.
Okay, yeah.
I think you know this from your personal history, how you traveled and then probably had to get a bit of cultural shocks and then had to get adapted to the new society. It happens to all of us. And so it's important that people have cultural intelligence in the way of doing whatever they're doing, including work.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a skill, I need to underline.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. And now, as we wrap up our show, I just want us to talk about how can individuals build skills even outside formal education. We know not everybody gets a chance, Doc, to go to school, but for those unlucky ones or those unfortunate ones that are not able to go to school, how would they be able to build certain skills even outside formal education? And as you think about that, Doc, I would like you, in conclusion, to recommend any 3 key skills that every Ugandan should actually learn today, and what would they be for you?
Oh, yeah, I'll take the first one first. The idea of where should you get skills if you're not able to go to school. Actually, the best place to obtain skills in modern time is not school. It's the environment around you. So you're better placed to understand that, the environment around you needs a number of skills to learn from it. And you're aided. If you have a tech gadget, you have a computer on you, the first teacher is the individual that you are. You are your own teacher. We will see a lot of self-learning going forward. Many more people will continue to tool themselves based on the circumstances in which they are. So pick up a skill and educate yourself, because no one is going to come out as your own teacher to support you. You can get assistance in addition to what you have already tooled yourself with, but it all starts with you. And that is the beauty of the IoT times, because you can actually skill yourself in anything, I'll tell you before, in modern time, before, for instance, you go and see a doctor, by identifying with the signs and symptoms that are affecting you, you simply go online and establish what could be the likely challenge that you're going through. And by the time the doctor is talking to you, you're not talking a language that you do not understand. So, and that is all self-education. That never existed many years ago. So, so we are at an advantage, and we should be able to appreciate it. That it all starts with us. If I had to ask anybody to choose themselves, learn to be agile. This is basically your ability to learn, be ready to learn. I mean, we've studied under difficult circumstances in the past, and I don't even know why such circumstances even ever existed, where training a child in primary school was an intimidating act. You wake up so early under strict guidelines. There is a lot of caning to make you, conform to school rules and regulations. I think education should be a free model. People should do it in a relaxing mode, appreciate the entire learning environment. It should not be something that is intimidating. So people should love to learn. It is okay also to unlearn everything that you learned so many years ago and you've been knowing. You can actually throw in the dustbin the next morning. You feel like it does not apply anymore, and then go ahead and relearn as fast as possible. So being agile is one thing that I would ask of anyone listening to us today. And secondly, and very important, being digitally fluent is one thing you must embrace. The idea is not just to use technology, but what can you create with technology? What can you create with technology? It's good to have technology, yes, but how are you using it? What can you create with it? And then, most importantly, problem solving. Can you have a problem solving mindset? When you look at challenges, do you see opportunities that create value? That should be part of your brain discourse, what you think about every other time in the course of your work. If I have to say anything, the future will not reward the most educated. Um, I know it's prestigious to pass as a doctor, as a PhD, but I've also seen many PhD holders that have nothing to talk about in terms of value to society as opposed to carrying a title. If you choose to go any higher in your academics, you should be able to appreciate the fact that it's one thing having a title, but it's another being useful. That use should be seen, should be seen. Value should be felt. Now, the future will only and only reward those that are adaptable. And for Ugandans, especially our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, the opportunity is not just to compete globally, but to redefine what global excellence actually looks like. Yes, Damaso.
Oh, Doc, I officially want to become your student. Can I relocate and come over to Georgia? Because you're
Incidentally, you
very
don't
good.
have to.
I don't
Incidentally, you
have
don't
to.
have to.
Okay, good.
That's exactly what I was talking about here. You don't have to. You don't have to relocate.
Mhm.
During the COVID-19, I had a show on NBS television in Kampala, and I was telling people it felt like I was, talking about something absolutely futuristic. I told people that education is going to become very, very affordable. You don't have
Yeah.
to travel anywhere. Just
Mm.
get your laptop, get your data, and enroll in a program. So, Samantha, you're invited into my business classes right in front of your sitting room. All you need to do is to just pay me a fraction of
Yes.
what you would use for your transport to Georgia. and you'll be in my class, and we'll be talking business. I'll be earning it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, you've heard it. Doctor officially granted me the right and permission to join his class because, honestly speaking, I can I can appreciate, or I'll do very well if I start with you, even for just maybe 3 hours. You're very, very knowledgeable, and you have a lot to share. But unfortunately, on your forum, we never get the time to actually unpack and explore each and everything. So that is why I'm actually seeking, the right to get closer and learn more from you, because this is very intriguing. Doctor just spoke about being your own teacher. So many of you, yes, will always have excuses and say A, B, C, D. I cannot do this because I don't have this. I cannot do this because of this and that. But you just heard it from him. He said that you don't have to actually go to school. You can be your own teacher. Start with having the will to do something. And once you do have the will, I'm sure you can actually gain so many skills by teaching yourself whatever you want to learn. Yeah. Something else that caught my eye was where he says and emphasizes about learning and unlearning. Yeah, this is something that we do, but we have actually never thought about it. We do it like unknowingly, Doc, because there are things we'll say that's outdated. Maybe I cannot wear this because it's out of style. But it actually is learning, and then we unlearn. So that's a new phrase that I have learned today. And then the third thing that caught my mind was problem solving. Many of us are very good at problem creating. We create so many problems in our daily lives, but we actually do not have the capacity, or we do not have the audacity to sit down and try to solve those problems. So I should say that my take home today is those three things: be a teacher to yourself, and then learn and unlearn. And then lastly is the problem solving attitude. When you do that, believe me, you're going to be very, very close to Dr. Kasir, or you will become more like a little professor, yeah, because you will be doing like the professor has advised. Moving forward, let's continue because we are now getting to the end of our show. We are wrapping up. And Doc, before you give your final remarks, I'm just going to go on and thank all our viewers that have been online today. We're very sorry once again. Our deepest apologies for having been unable to streamline on Facebook Live due to technical issues. We are only on YouTube. I know many of you prefer Facebook because it's much more convenient, so you claim. But we managed to come and share with you regardless. Yeah. So bear with us and know that next time we shall do better. Yeah. As we come to the end of today's conversation on education and future skills, where we were focusing on how Ugandans can globally succeed, in the world today, one thing that is clear is that the future is not something we wait for. It is something we prepare for. We have heard that succeeding on the global stage is no longer defined by where we come from, but by what we can do, how we think, and how willing we are to adapt. The world is changing fast, and the opportunities are real, but only for those who are ready. For Uganda, this is a defining moment, a moment to rethink how we learn, to embrace innovation, and also to invest in the skills that empower not just individuals, but the entire community. Whether it is digital, literacy, critical thinking, creativity, or entrepreneurship, the responsibility begins with each one of us. To our young people, professionals, educators, and leaders out there, this is your call to action. Keep learning, stay curious, and do not be afraid to step beyond your comfort zone. And to you, our guest, Professor Dr. Fred Kasir, thank you so much for sharing your insights and inspiring us to think differently about growth, leadership, and legacy. Until next time, this has been Education and Future Skills, where we have talked about preparing for the future, or for Ugandans to prepare for the future. Dr. Kasir, allow me request you to give your final remarks on today's show, and I would like to promise our viewers out there that we shall be back next time to have a part 2 or a continuation with Dr. Kasere, because we cannot go through each and everything right now, but we shall bring him back.
Okay, my parting shot is based on 2 facts. Thanks, Elf. Two things. One, education in Uganda, more like everywhere, is very, very expensive. I think it's one of the greatest investments that parents make. Their children, very expensive. But you know, where are you putting these coins? And what is the future you see after spending all this kind of money educating a child? I normally contend that education's role is simple: to empower an individual to thrive in the world after they learn. But in a world that is absolutely uncertain right now, absolutely volatile, very complex, and quite ambiguous, you need to ask yourself exactly how are you spending that money for that child in school, and what will be the outcome of it. You should be able to see the end in sight. And therefore, anything that does not tally into building skills for adaptability, please don't spend any additional coins on it. If a child is going to school just to memorize and pass exams, and you're thrilled by great results in terms of paper results and not observable results, then don't invest. Don't take a loan for it. Think about skills, and you should be able to see this. We have many fields to test this. See how your children are performing at the farm. See how they are advising you financially based on how you are spending the money at home. And then you'll know that, well, whichever finance classes they're attending are quite impactful. Observe even how they manage their food ratios at home. Then you will know probably they know 1 or 2 things about saving. So it's important to understand that practicability in all this whole learning cycle. So the future is about that. It's not about how glamorous your transcript looks like. It's about what you can do. And can your skills travel with you wherever you go? Thank you, Samantha, and thank you everybody for being on this show today. I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things, and I hope that this will help you make better decisions for the future with regards to your personal career as an individual if you're studying, or if you are educating a child. It will enable you see better for them where circumstances are uncertain. Thank you. Good evening, good night, and good morning, depending on where you are.
Thank you very much, Doc, for that wonderful conclusion. You've all heard it. He is our patron at Eurofirm Uganda, but on top of that, he is a doctor and a professor and very knowledgeable. So please feel free to always look out for him, and remember to also get in touch with us and get a copy for yourself. His book is Breakaway to Galvanize. As we end the show today, I just want to send some shout outs to all my colleagues, comrades on Eurofirm Uganda. Thank you for the work you do, and it's because of you that we are who we are. Keep the spirit up, and to all our fans, we love you so much. God bless you, and have a lovely week. Until next time, I'm out, and I was Samantha L. Cheers. Bye.